there's this unstated, mostly underlying presupposition permeating through the postmodern dystopic frontiers. And this is the presupposition that in order to hold an opinion, or to think that an opinion is superior to another, or more correct, or more precise, one will have to, or must, benefit from it immediately. That is, in order to speak honestly about the world, it must have an immediate benefit. That means that you must gain from it something without any effort. This presupposes that the world comes ready-made for our pleasures. Not that it challenges us, that it confronts us, and that in relation to it we must adapt and grow in order to find contentment, to whatever degree we can find contentment, but that it already exists out there, and all we have to do is open our eyes, I suppose, and discover it. And this underlies many hypotheticals, such as God, for instance. The sheer arrogance of the idea that the entire world is geared for us, that this is a testing phase, that a omnipotent power oversees our actions or cares about us, and that we deserve immortality. The sheer arrogance of that is only counterbalanced by the pretentious humility that is used to sell this idea. A pretentious humility, underlying it being this arrogance that I think very few ideologies can match. But this is true of most current modern ideas. Most people think that if you believe in something, that means you benefit from it or you like it. For instance, if I say that paternalism was the only way that males could be integrated into the system and find a mate, this means that I'm proposing a return to paternalism, or that I benefit from it, or that I like it. Or when I say that races are not, or in sexes are not accidental or merely superficial designations, but that there is something more substantial to it other than appearance, because appearance does matter, and that there is a difference between the races, as there is between the sexes, as there is between species, and that we perceive these differences aesthetically, that is, through color, form, texture, smell, sound. If I were to say that I dare to say that, it means that I'm benefiting from it, that I enjoy it, that I take pleasure in this fact, that I like it. It's not like that it confronts me and that I can't close my eyes to it. I cannot delude myself just to enter into this narcosis, this blissful, delusional state, this artificial world. It's implied that, again, that I benefit from it directly. And why is it applied? Why is it implied? Because, to be honest, for most people, this is in fact the truth of the matter. That is, most people only accept an opinion, a proposition, if it benefits them immediately, if they have an immediate flattering advantage gained just from seeing or accepting the opinion. Not that the proposition challenges them to become more, to grow, to deal with it, to cope, because not everything in life can be corrected. Some things, in fact most things, have to be accepted and coped with, such as mortality, or the limitations that our particular genetic backgrounds place upon us, the way we look, how tall we are, how smart we are, and so on. So most people can only accept a proposition if they are flattered by it, or it benefits them without any effort. Or there is some cases where they just cannot deny it. It's just so obvious that they can't deny it, and they begrudgingly accept it, claiming that this is an aspect of their objectivity and their honesty. Now, because most people depend on others to construct perspectives, which they then just parrot, they adopt and they parrot, they regurgitate, they make it their own. This results in political movements, because politics is not some abstraction disconnected from life. Politics is a way of engaging life. It's a grouping associated with a psychological matter. And because most people adopt and accept the insights of others, most of them must be seduced by the idea. That is, as I stated earlier, they must be made to feel good about themselves. They must be flattered by the idea. And that's why most nihilistic ideologies, or most pretentious ideologies and ideas and dogmas and religions, offer that populist perspective. That is, they try to soothe and comfort as many people as they can in order to assimilate them within their premises and dominate them, and then use them. Now, it's a well-known premise what language is, but I'm gonna quote from an expert, because experts is what most people need in order to even entertain an opinion. So I'm gonna quote here from a British anthropologist and evolutionary psychologist in regards to what language is. His name is Robin Dunbar. Quote, "Eventually, even this form of communication would have exhausted its capacity to bond groups. A more efficient mechanism for bonding was needed to allow group size to continue its upward drift. At this point, the vocalizations began to acquire meaning, but the content was largely social. Gossip had arrived. This need not have involved any dramatic change, for, as the studies by Sytar and Cheney have shown, primate vocalizations are already capable of conveying a great deal of social information and commentary." Unquote. We see here his take on gossip and in language, and how it, from grooming, primate grooming, a language evolves. I quote again from Dunbar. Quote, "The central argument revolves around four key points. 1. Among primates, social group size appears to be limited by the size of the species, neocortex. 2. The size of human social networks appears to be limited for similar reasons to a value of around 150. 3. The time devoted to social grooming by primates is directly related to group size because it plays a crucial role in bonding groups. And finally, 4. It is suggested that language evolved among humans to replace social grooming because the grooming time required by our large groups made impossible demands on our time. Language, I argue, evolved to fill the gap because it allows us to use the time we have available for social interactions more efficiently." Unquote. We see here not only how the brain size limits our ability to associate with individuals, which he places around 150, but also it makes us wonder how this limit is overcome, with what methods. And I would say abstraction is one of the methods, and lowering the the identifying marker down to its lowest point. Also, this unifying bullshit is used to increase the size of association to in these days millions. So now let's go to another quote by Dunbar. Quote, "In fact, we know now that grooming stimulates the production of the body's natural opiates, the endorphins. In effect, being groomed produces mildly narcotic effects. The problem here is that vocalizations are just, well, vocalizations. They don't have the same opiate-releasing properties as grooming. However, suppose that as language develops, signals associated with language themselves begin to stimulate opiate production. Smiling, and particularly laughing, do just this. And this may well explain why smiling and laughing are such important components of conversation." Unquote. And one last quote by Dunbar. "Language has an additional benefit, invaluable in our circumstances. It allows us to exchange information about other people, so short-circuiting the laborious process of finding out how they behave. For monkeys and apes, all this has to be done by direct observation." Unquote. Therefore, we see how grooming through language takes on the form of finding and then associating with others of our kind, grouping ourselves in political unities. Therefore, everything, all interactions, is politics. Politics is not something that happens in government. Politics is everyday life. When you associate with a group of people, even your family, there is politics involved. There's internal politics. So when some men children try to disassociate themselves from this left-right simplicity, which is truly a simplicity, they are not being merely disingenuous, they're being foolish, they're being idiotic. One is made to wonder that if right and left are too simplistic for some minds, why male-female, that dichotomy is not as simplistic. And I would say that I can find more common ground with some females, rare as they may be, than I can with most males, particularly in today's world of feminization. In fact, I've found many females online who are of like mind with me, and I found myriads of males who have nothing in common with me on any level: intellectual, spiritual, psychological, economic, social, etc. So here we see how a mind's interaction with the environment produces an attraction and a production of certain ideas, because ideas are merely exchanges between man and environment, conceptions, interpretations of the environment, if you will. And other men are aspects of the environment. They are not us. When I meet another person, he's not me. He is an aspect of the environment which I then relate to. And this produces a hierarchy. And this eventually, if you add more people, produces the need for grooming, and results in politics, political discourse, and so on. To bring it back to the original point, I, for example, can only associate with people who can take themselves out of the equation. That is, when they perceive the world, they don't perceive it through their rosy glasses, or they don't see it as they wish it were, but they try to see it as closely as possible to how it is. Because the world is not benevolent, it is uncaring, it is indifferent, it's unconscious, and it challenges us. And this challenging is what produces growth. It leads to advancement. It leads to a do-or-die attitude. You either adapt to it or you perish. This is the natural selection process. And perceiving it correctly only adds to the potential of you adapting to it. Now, whether you can adapt to it is not a given. This is determined by your past, which gives you your talents, your limits, establishes your limits, your psychology, your courage, your strengths, your weaknesses, and so on. Nevertheless, even if you can't adapt, simply ignoring the truth or ignoring reality won't make it go away. If a lion is coming to eat you, closing your eyes and pretending that it's not there is not going to save you from the lion. You either accept the consequences of your nature, as this has been established by your past, or you suffer for it. Now, in modern systems, there is a sheltering going on. That means weakness is protected. It is told soothing myths in order to integrate it into its premises, and in order to manipulate it, to exploit it. And this is what the problem is here, not only in regards to feminization, but in regards to such thing as increase in disease, increases in disillusionment, increase in pretentiousness, in narcissism, in a form of schizophrenia, which I've gotten into in one of my essays, and sort of touched upon in one of my videos. So just because I say something is true, or I believe that it's true, doesn't mean that I like it. In fact, that I like it should make me more skeptical about it. And so I don't look in the world and say what I want to see, but I look into the world and try to see a challenge, because I know the world was not made for me, unlike what other delusional minds think. And I know that life is not a product of benevolence, that it's a reaction to an environment that threatens life. That's why life is so rare in the universe, and that's why it's so precious. And that's why higher forms of life are even more rare.